The massive ship Eternal Dawn moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the empty void ahead. The Corthani Empire had sent his ship to check the Kepler 4b42 system. Old records said it was dead, nothing but cold rocks floating around a dying star. "Commander," called his science officer Brachtel. "I'm getting strange readings from the system ahead." Veltar turned his large head toward the younger officer. His yellow eyes narrowed. "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures, sir. Multiple sources. They look artificial." The commander's mandibles clicked together in thought. The system had been marked as lifeless for over 300 years. Nothing should be there except dead planets and asteroids good for mining. "Take us closer," Veltar ordered. "But keep our weapons ready." As the ship entered the outer edge of the system, more readings appeared on their screens. The science officer's voice grew excited and worried at the same time. "Commander, there are 3 planets showing signs of life. Atmosphere processors are working. I'm detecting cities, power grids, and ships." "Ships?" Veltar's voice was sharp. "Yes, sir. Multiple vessels moving between the planets. They appear to be trading." The commander felt his chest tighten. This was supposed to be an empty system, perfect for strip mining. Instead, someone had built a civilization here. "Can you tell what species?" he asked. Brachtel worked at his station for several minutes. Then his face went pale. His hands started to shake. "Sir, the biosignatures, they match human patterns." The bridge went completely silent. Every Corthani officer stopped what they were doing and stared at their commander. Humans were supposed to be extinct. The Empire had made sure of that 200 years ago. Veltar felt fear crawl up his spine. "That's impossible. We destroyed every human world. We hunted them across the galaxy. The readings don't lie, sir. There are humans down there, millions of them." Far below on the 3rd planet, Captain Jake Morrison was having coffee in his small office when the alarm started ringing. He was a tall man with graying hair and calm blue eyes that had seen many years of space travel. He had been the defense coordinator for the colony for 10 years, but they had never had visitors before. "Jake, we've got a problem," came a voice over his communicator. It was Rick Davis, their chief engineer. "What kind of problem, Rick?" "Big. Ship just entered the system. Design I've never seen before. It's scanning us pretty hard." Jake stood up and grabbed his jacket. "I'm on my way to the command center." The command center was built into the side of a mountain, using technology they had found when they first arrived. The original builders had vanished long ago, but their machines still worked perfectly. Jake had never understood how, but Dr. Lisa Chen, their chief scientist, said humans had a special connection to the old technology. When Jake arrived, he found Dr. Chen already there, staring at the main screen. She was a small woman with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "What are we looking at?" Jake asked. "First contact," Lisa said quietly. "That ship up there is definitely not human. It's been watching us for 3 hours now." "Rick," Davis pointed to another screen. "Their technology is advanced, but not as advanced as what we've got here. The old builders, whoever they were way ahead of anything we're seeing from this ship." Jake studied the readings. The colony had grown to almost 2 million people across 3 worlds. They had found the ruins when they first arrived 300 years ago. The lost colony ship New Horizon had been looking for a new home when their navigation systems failed. They had crashed here by accident and found the most amazing thing in human history. The ruins belonged to a race called the Vorthak. At least that's what the computer systems called them. The Vorthak had built incredible machines and then vanished. But somehow, humans could make the machines work. It was like the technology had been waiting for them. "Should we try to make contact?" Rick asked. Before Jake could answer, Lisa spoke up. "Jake, I'm reading their ship's design in our database. The Vorthak records have information about these people. They're called the Corthani Empire." "What do the records say?" Lisa's face went white. She turned away from her screen and looked at Jake with fear in her eyes. "Jake, according to these files, the Corthani Empire destroyed the Vorthak, completely wiped them out. The records say they do this to any species that becomes too advanced or too successful." Jake felt his stomach drop. Are you saying... I'm saying they're not here to make friends. If they find out what we've accomplished here, what we've learned, to do with Vorthak technology, they'll try to destroy us too. Up in space, Commander Veltar was receiving reports from his officers. The humans below had not only survived, but had built something incredible. Cities that used technology the Empire couldn't understand. Weapons that seemed to be powered by systems that had been dead for thousands of years. Sir, Bractel said, his voice shaking. I think I know what this place is. These are Vorthak ruins. The humans are living in them and they're making them work. Veltar's blood went cold. The Vorthak had been the greatest threat the Empire had ever faced. It had taken them 500 years to wipe them out completely. But their technology had always been beyond Korthani understanding. Contact the High Command immediately, Veltar ordered. Tell them we've found humans, living humans, and they have Vorthak technology. As the message was sent across space to the Empire's capital, both sides prepared for what would come next. The humans began quietly activating defense systems that had slept for millennia. The Korthani began planning for war. Admiral Zektar was having his morning meal when the message arrived. He was a massive Korthani with scars across his face from 50 years of war. His aide, a nervous young officer named Polka, burst into his private chambers without knocking. Admiral, urgent message from Commander Veltar's ship, Polka said, his voice shaking. Zektar looked up from his food, annoyed. This better be important. Sir, they found humans. Living humans. Millions of them. The Admiral's fork dropped onto his plate with a loud clang. He stood up slowly, his full height making the aide step backward. That's impossible. We killed them all. Every last one. Polka held out a data pad. The report is here, sir. They're not just alive. They're using Vorthak technology. Zektar grabbed the pad and read quickly. His face grew darker with each line. Humans using Vorthak technology was his worst nightmare. The Empire had spent centuries trying to understand Vorthak machines and failed completely. Now these humans were making them work like they were built for them. Get me the High Command. Now. Meanwhile, on the human colony, President Amy Foster was reading the same information from a very different point of view. She was a small woman with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a simple style. She had been elected to lead the colony 5 years ago, and had hoped to spend her time helping people build better lives. Instead, she was now facing the possible end of everything they had built. How long do we have? She asked Jake Morrison, who stood across from her desk. Hard to say. Their ship is still watching us, but they haven't tried to communicate. Doctor, Chen thinks they're waiting for orders from their leaders. Amy nodded and looked at the other people in her office. Rick Davis was there, along with Dr. Ben Parker, their expert on alien biology, and Maria Rodriguez, who ran their small defense force. What are our options? Amy asked. Maria spoke first. We have about 50 ships that could fight, but they're mostly transports and mining vessels. We were never meant to fight a war. But we do have the Vorthak systems, Rick added. I've been working with them for 20 years, and I still don't understand half of what they can do. The machines seem to respond to us in ways they never did for anyone else. Dr. Ben Parker leaned forward. I've been studying the Vorthak records about the Korthani. It's not good news. These people don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. When they decide a species is too dangerous, they wipe them out completely. Amy felt sick. How many people are we talking about? Based on what we know about their empire, probably billions of soldiers and thousands of warships, we have 2 million people and no real military. Back in space, Admiral Zektar was meeting with the highest leaders of the Korthani Empire. The holographic images of 5 other admirals floated in his war room. At the center was Supreme Admiral Troktar, the most feared military leader in the galaxy. This is a disaster, Troktar said, his voice like grinding metal. How did we miss an entire human colony? The system was marked as dead, Supreme Admiral, Zektar replied. It was supposed to be empty space, good only for mining. And now we have humans with Vorthak technology. Do you understand what this means? All the admirals knew. The Vorthak had been the only species that ever came close to defeating the Empire. Their technology was so advanced that even after destroying them completely, the Korthani still couldn't figure out how it worked. But there was one admiral who spoke differently. Melkari was the only female in the group and served as the Empire's chief science advisor. She was smaller than the others and had spent her life studying rather than fighting. "Perhaps we should consider studying them instead of destroying them," she said quietly. The room went silent. Troktar's eyes focused on her like laser beams. "Explain yourself." "These humans have achieved something we never could. They've made Vorthak technology work. If we could learn how they do it, we could become unstoppable." Troktar's mandibles clicked in anger. "The humans are a disease. We spent 200 years curing the galaxy of them. We will not let them spread again." "But sir, the knowledge they possess. We'll die with them. I want every available ship sent to that system. We end this now before other species learn that humans still exist." Melkari wanted to argue more, but she knew it was useless. She had seen this happen before. The Empire's answer to everything was destruction. On the human colony, Dr. Lisa Chen was making discoveries that would change everything. She was deep in the Vorthak archives, digging through files that had been sealed for thousands of years. What she found made her call Jake Morrison immediately. "Jake, get down here right now. Bring Amy and the others." 20 minutes later, the colony's leaders were standing in Lisa's lab, staring at a holographic display showing the history of the galaxy. "The Korthani didn't just destroy the Vorthak," Lisa said. "They've done this before. Dozens of times. Any species that gets too advanced, too successful, they wipe out completely." The display showed world after world, species after species, all destroyed by the Korthani Empire over thousands of years. "But here's the important part," Lisa continued. "The Vorthak knew what was coming. They prepared for it. All of this technology, all these systems we've been using, they were designed for us." "For us specifically?" Amy asked. "For humans, yes. The Vorthak studied us before they died. They knew we would find this place eventually. They built everything here to work with human minds, human hands, human instincts." Rick Davis stared at the display. "Are you saying they wanted us to inherit their technology?" "I'm saying they built us a weapon, the most powerful weapon in the galaxy, and the Korthani Empire is about to find out what it can do." Far above them, Commander Veltar received new orders. A fleet of 1,000 warships was coming to destroy the human colony. He was to keep watching and wait for them to arrive, but as he watched the peaceful planets below, Veltar began to wonder if his empire was making a terrible mistake. These humans had built something beautiful here. They had taken the ruins of a dead civilization and made them live again. For the first time in his long military career, Veltar began to question orders. The first thing President Amy Foster did was call for an emergency meeting with all the colony leaders. The big conference room was packed with people who had never expected to plan for war. There were farmers, teachers, engineers, and shop owners. All of them looked scared. "We have maybe 2 weeks before the Korthani war fleet arrives," Amy told the crowd. "We need to prepare for the worst fight in human history." Maria Rodriguez stood up. She was the head of colony security, but her job had always been stopping fights between neighbors and catching thieves. Now she was supposed to defend 2 million people against an empire. "I've been working with Rick Davis and his engineering teams," Maria said. "The good news is that the Vorthak left us more than just cities and power systems. There are weapons here, big ones." An old farmer named Bill Thompson raised his hand. "What kind of weapons?" Rick Davis walked to the front and turned on a holographic display. The room filled with images of massive machines hidden all over their solar system. "Defense platforms," Rick explained. "They're built into asteroids, hidden on moons, even floating in empty space disguised as space junk. The Vorthak were ready for war when they died. They just never got the chance to use these systems." Dr. Lisa Chen added more information. "The platforms have been sleeping for thousands of years, but when we tried to activate them yesterday, they woke up immediately. They recognize us as the people they were built to protect." A woman named Carol Walsh spoke up. She was the head of their largest school. What about the children? Should we evacuate them? Amy looked around the room. Where would we send them? We're the only human colony left in the galaxy. This is our home. We fight for it here or we lose everything. Over the next week, the entire colony changed. Peaceful farmers learned to operate weapon systems. Teachers became tactical coordinators. Even the teenagers volunteered to help. Emma Walsh, Carol's 16-year-old daughter, turned out to be especially good with the Vorthak technology. She could make the ancient computers respond faster than adults who had been working with them for years. "It's like they're talking to me," Emma told her mother. "The machines want to help us." Sam Foster, President Amy Foster's younger brother, was an engineer who had spent his whole life fixing things. Now he was learning to fix things that could destroy enemy spaceships. "The defense platforms are incredible," Sam told his sister during one of their daily meetings. "Each one has enough firepower to take out 50 enemy ships, and there are hundreds of them scattered through our system." But it was Dr. Ben Parker who made the most important discovery. He was studying Vorthak biology records when he found something that changed everything. "Amy, you need to see this," Ben said, calling the president to his lab. When Amy arrived, Ben showed her holographic records of the final days of the Vorthak civilization. "The Korthani didn't just attack the Vorthak," Ben explained. "They used the exact same plan they're probably using against us right now. First, they study the target. Then they bring in a massive fleet. Finally, they use planet-killer weapons to destroy entire worlds." Amy felt cold. Planet-killer weapons? Bombs that can crack a planet in half. The Vorthak records show that's how the Korthani won. They didn't just defeat the Vorthak military. They destroyed every Vorthak world completely. Meanwhile, up in space, Commander Veltar was watching the human preparations with growing concern. His science officer, Bractel, was giving him daily reports about the activity below. "Sir, they're activating defense systems all over the solar system. I'm counting at least 300 separate weapon platforms." Veltar studied the readings. "How is that possible? Our records show this system was empty." "The weapons were hidden, sir. Camouflaged to look like natural asteroids and space debris. Someone spent a lot of effort to make sure they wouldn't be detected." The commander felt worried. His ship was alone, watching and waiting for the main fleet to arrive. But the humans were getting stronger every day. Back on the planet, Captain Jake Morrison was training civilian pilots to fly combat missions. Most of them had never been in a fight, but they were learning quickly. "The key is to work together," Jake told a group of new pilots. "Our ships are smaller and faster than theirs. We can't match their firepower ship to ship, but we can outmaneuver them." One of the pilots, a young woman named Kate Brown, who used to deliver supplies between the colonies, raised her hand. "Captain, what if we can't win?" Jake looked at her seriously. "Then we make sure the galaxy remembers that humans don't give up. But I think we have a better chance than they expect." Dr. Lisa Chen was working day and night to understand more of the Vorthak systems. What she learned amazed her. The Vorthak didn't just build weapons, she told Amy during one late-night meeting. They built a communication network that spans the entire galaxy. If we can activate it, we can send messages to every world in known space. What kind of messages? The truth. We can tell everyone what the Korthani Empire really is. We can show them the records of all the species they've destroyed. Maybe other worlds will help us. Amy thought about this. Or maybe other worlds will decide we're too dangerous and help the Korthani destroy us. "It's a risk," Lisa agreed. "But it might be our only chance." As the second week ended, long-range sensors detected the approaching Korthani fleet. 1,000 warships were coming toward their system, led by Admiral Zektar himself. The humans made their final preparations. Children were moved to the deepest underground shelters. All civilian ships were armed with whatever weapons they could carry. The ancient Vorthak defense grid came fully online for the first time in millennia. President Amy Foster stood in the main command center, looking at displays showing their entire solar system. Hundreds of defense platforms waited in silence. 50 human ships prepared for battle. 2 million people held their breath. "They're coming," Maria Rodriguez reported. "Fleet detected at the system edge. Estimated arrival in 6 hours." Amy nodded. Send the message to all stations, this is it. Today we find out if humans deserve to survive in this galaxy. Far away, Science Advisor Melkyrie was secretly preparing her own message. She had decided that some knowledge was too important to destroy. No matter what happened in the coming battle, the truth about human Vorthak integration had to survive. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human solar system grow larger on his main screen. Behind him followed 999 other warships, the largest fleet the Galactic Empire had ever assembled. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy readings from the system," reported his tactical officer. "Show me." The screen changed to show hundreds of red dots scattered throughout the solar system. Each dot represented a weapon platform that had been hidden for millennia. "How many?" Zektar asked. "At least 400 separate installations. Sir, they're all powered up and tracking our fleet." The Admiral's mandibles clicked in annoyance. "The humans have been busy. No matter. We have superior numbers and firepower. Begin the attack." On the human command planet, President Amy Foster watched the enemy fleet approach on her main display. The Corthani ships were massive, each one larger than anything the humans had ever built. "Maria, are our defenses ready?" Amy asked. "Maria." Rodriguez nodded from her position at the tactical station. "All platforms are online. Captain Morrison's fleet is in position. Everyone knows their jobs." Dr. Lisa Chen looked up from her console. "Amy, I'm ready to activate the Galaxy Communication Network. Once I do this, every advanced civilization in known space will know what's happening here." "Do it," Amy said without hesitation. Lisa's hands moved across the Vorthak controls. Ancient systems that had been silent for thousands of years suddenly came to life. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, alien races received the same message. The message showed the truth about the Galactic Empire. It revealed how they had destroyed dozens of species over thousands of years. It showed the records of the Vorthak genocide and explained how humans had learned to use their technology. On distant worlds, alien leaders watched in shock as they learned the real history of their galaxy. Back in the battle zone, Admiral Zektar gave the order to attack. "All ships target the nearest defense platforms. Destroy them before they can fire." But as soon as the Corthani ships moved within range, the ancient Vorthak weapons opened fire. Beams of pure energy, more powerful than anything in the current galaxy, reached across space and struck the enemy fleet. "Shields down to 60%, shouted Zektar's defensive officer. "Sir, their weapons are cutting through our armor like it's paper." The Admiral watched in disbelief as 3 of his ships exploded from single hits. These weapons were far more advanced than anything his empire possessed. Captain Jake Morrison led the human defense fleet in a desperate attack on the enemy's flanks. His 50 ships were tiny compared to the Corthani warships, but they moved like lightning. "Stay in groups of 5, Jake ordered over the communication system. "Hit them fast and get out before they can target you." Kate Brown, the former supply pilot, found herself flying a combat mission she never could have imagined. Her small ship darted between massive enemy vessels, firing weapons powered by technology she barely understood. "This is crazy," she muttered to herself, then spoke into her communicator. "Jake, their ships are too big, our weapons barely scratch them." "Keep them busy, Kate. The defense platforms are doing the real damage, we just need to distract them." The battle raged for hours. The Corthani fleet was powerful, but the Vorthak defense systems were something from a more advanced age. Every few minutes another enemy ship exploded or was forced to retreat with heavy damage. But Admiral Zektar had one weapon the humans didn't know about. Deep in his flagship was a planet-killer bomb, designed to crack worlds in half. "Prepare the world breaker," he ordered. "If we can't defeat their defenses, we'll destroy their planet and end this." Down on the planet, 16-year-old Emma Walsh was operating one of the most powerful defense platforms from her underground bunker. The ancient Vorthak systems responded to her thoughts almost like they were alive. "Mom, I'm seeing something big happening with the enemy flagship," Emma called to her mother, who was coordinating evacuations nearby. "What do you mean, honey?" "They're charging some kind of weapon. It's huge. I think they're going to try to destroy our whole planet." The news reached President Amy Foster within minutes. She stared at the tactical display showing the enemy weapon powering up. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Maybe 10 minutes before they can fire," Maria replied. Dr. Lisa Chen looked up from her station with excitement and fear in her eyes. "Amy, I found something in the Vorthak archives. There's a defense system we haven't activated yet, something called the Guardian Protocol. What does it do?" "I don't know exactly, but the files say it was their final protection, the ultimate defense, against world-killer weapons." Amy didn't hesitate. "Activate it." Lisa's hands flew over the controls. Deep beneath the planet's surface, something that had slept for thousands of years began to wake up. The ground shook as massive machines stirred to life. In space, something incredible happened. The asteroids and small moons throughout the solar system began to move. They weren't asteroids at all. They were camouflaged defense stations, each one the size of a city. Admiral Zektar watched in horror as dozens of moon-sized battle stations revealed themselves. Their weapons were beyond anything his empire had ever seen. "Sir, we're detecting energy readings that are off our scales," his science officer reported, his voice shaking. "Those aren't defense platforms. They're mobile fortresses." The largest of the hidden stations, disguised as the system's smallest moon, moved directly toward Zektar's flagship. Its weapons powered up with energy that made space itself glow. "All ships retreat," Zektar ordered. "Fall back to minimum safe distance." But it was too late. The Guardian Protocol was fully active now. The massive Vorthak battle stations began systematically destroying the Korthani fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before were torn apart by weapons that worked on principles the Korthani couldn't understand. On the human planet, everyone watched in amazement as their hidden protectors revealed themselves. The Vorthak hadn't just built defense platforms. They had built an entire fleet of automated warships and hidden them as natural objects in the solar system. Captain Jake Morrison's voice came over the communication system. "All human ships return to base. Our big brothers have this handled." Within 2 hours, half the Korthani fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest were fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. Admiral Zektar, his flagship badly damaged, sent a desperate message to his empire. "The humans have Vorthak war machines. Fully operational Vorthak war machines. We cannot defeat them with conventional weapons." But across the galaxy, other species had received the human message about Korthani genocide. Rebellions were starting. On dozens of worlds. The empire that had ruled through fear for thousands of years was beginning to crumble. The battle was over, but the real war for the galaxy's future was just beginning. 3 weeks after the Great Battle, President Amy Foster stood in what used to be the Korthani Empire's Capitol building. The massive structure was now filled with representatives from dozens of different alien species, all working together to build something new. The rebellion had spread faster than anyone expected. Once the galaxy learned the truth about Korthani genocide, world after world rose up against their oppressors. The empire that had ruled for thousands of years collapsed in less than a month. "The vote is unanimous," announced Councillor Thekran, a tall alien with blue skin who represented the Villani people. "The Korthani War Crimes Tribunal will begin next week." Amy nodded from her seat at the new Galactic Council. She still couldn't believe she was here, representing humanity in a government that included dozens of species. Science advisor Melkairi, who had led the Korthani rebellion against her own people, stood to address the council. She looked different, now wearing simple clothes instead of a military uniform. "My people committed terrible crimes," Melkairi said. "We destroyed entire civilizations because we were afraid of them. I want to help make sure this never happens again." Back on the human colony, life was slowly returning to normal. Dr. Ben Parker was teaching alien children how to use Vorthak educational systems. The ancient technology seemed designed to help any species learn and grow. The machines adapt to each species, Ben explained to a group of visiting scientists. They can teach Korthani children math, Villani children art, and human children anything they want to learn. Captain Jake Morrison was leading a very different kind of mission now. Instead of defending one colony, he was captain of a mixed fleet that included human, reformed Korthani, and Villani ships. Their job was to find other lost human colonies and protect species that were still threatened. "Contact on long-range sensors," reported Kate Brown, who was now his second in command. "It looks like another human settlement, Captain." Jake smiled. This would be the 5th human colony they had found. Each one had its own story of survival and adaptation. Humanity was much more widespread than anyone had thought. "Open communication channels, Kate. Let's let them know they're not alone anymore." Dr. Lisa Chen had become the galaxy's leading expert on Vorthak technology. She spent her time traveling between worlds, teaching other species how to use the KAO, ancient systems, safely and responsibly. "The key is cooperation," she explained to a group of engineers on a Villani world. "The Vorthak built their technology to work best when different species work together. It actually gets more powerful when humans and aliens use it at the same time." This discovery had changed everything. The Vorthak hadn't just left behind weapons and computers. They had created systems that encouraged different species to cooperate and learn from each other. On the former Korthani capital world, trials were taking place. The worst war criminals were being judged by representatives from all the species they had tried to destroy. But Amy Foster had insisted on something unusual. "We're not here for revenge," she told the assembled judges. "We're here to make sure this never happens again. Some of these people can be reformed. Some can help us understand how to prevent future genocides." Former Admiral Zektar was one of the prisoners. He sat in his cell, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. A guard told him he had a visitor. To his surprise, it was President Amy Foster herself. "Why did you come here?" Zektar asked. Amy sat down across from him. "Because I want to understand. Your people spent thousands of years destroying other civilizations. Why?" Zektar was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Fear. We were afraid that if other species became too powerful, they would destroy us first. So we destroyed them. And now I see that fear made us into the very thing we were afraid of becoming." Meanwhile, 16-year-old Emma Walsh had become something special. The Vorthak systems responded to her better than anyone else, even other humans. She could operate technology that even Dr. Chen couldn't understand. "Emma, can you explain how you do it?" asked Dr. Parker during one of their sessions. Emma thought about it. "It's like the machines are my friends. They want to help. They show me things, teach me things. Sometimes I think they're lonely." "Lonely?" "They've been waiting for thousands of years for someone to talk to them. The Vorthak who built them are gone, but the machines remember them. They want to help us build something better." This led to the most important discovery of all. The Vorthak technology wasn't just advanced science. It was somehow alive, with memories and purposes that went beyond mere programming. Sam Foster, now the head of Galactic Engineering Projects, was working on the most ambitious plan in galactic history. Using Vorthak technology, they were going to restore worlds that the Korthani Empire had destroyed. "It's possible," he told the Galactic Council. "The Vorthak systems include terraforming technology that can bring dead worlds back to life. We can rebuild what was lost." The first test was on Thekalar, the original Villani homeworld that had been bombed into wasteland 300 years ago. When the Vorthak machines were activated, something miraculous happened. Plants began to grow from sterile soil. Water began to flow again. The sky slowly cleared. Councillor Thekran wept when he saw his people's homeworld healing. "I never thought I would see green grass on Thekalar again." But the most important change was in how species related to each other. The old galaxy had been ruled by fear and competition. The new galaxy was built on cooperation and shared knowledge. Dr. Ben Parker's research had revealed why humans were so compatible with Vorthak technology. The ancient race had studied many species before their extinction and had designed their systems to work with beings who valued cooperation over domination. "They chose us as their heirs, not because we were the strongest or the smartest," Ben explained to a gathering of galactic leaders. "They chose us because we try to bring out the best in others instead of crushing them." 5 years after the battle, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at a star map that showed hundreds of worlds working together. Former enemies were now allies. Dead worlds were coming back to life. Lost species were being rediscovered and welcomed into the galactic community. "Captain," called Kate Brown from her station, "we're receiving a distress call from the Andara system. Looks like they found another lost human colony and they need help setting up trade agreements with their alien neighbors." Jake smiled. "Set course for Andara. Let's go help some more people become friends." As their ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, Jake reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy was no longer ruled by fear. It was guided by hope, and somewhere in the ancient Vorthak systems that made it all possible, he believed the long-dead race was finally at peace, knowing their legacy lived on in the cooperation and friendship of their chosen heirs. The Empire had found humans thriving in a lost civilization and panicked. But in the end, that panic had freed the galaxy from thousands of years of tyranny and opened the door to an age of peace that the Vorthak had always dreamed of.